The Mentallurgist is part philosopher, part experimenter, taking on the hidden alloys of thought. Like the distillers in the artwork, they separate the useful from the noise.
You are listening to the Innovation Forge, the #1 podcast on adaptive enrollment management, exploring the data, marketing, and strategy that fuels higher education. Here's your host, David Dysart.
You are listening to, and hopefully viewing, A Study in Pictures. The Innovation Forge, From Posters to Practice, Volume 1, Journeys, explores admission, adaptive enrollment management, and the Innovation Forge through over 70 vintage-style posters. Each poster is paired with an explainer in the style of the poster, exploring the Codex Practitioners' Pavilions, flying with the enrollment aces, and learning how to use the implements of perpetual flux safely. The image sets mood in motion. The text names what the scene teaches. It offers 2 field notes and points to one small souvenir that helps the idea stick. Read both pages as one conversation. The poster invites you in, the paragraph gives you the move. This book is part of the Innovation Forge. The cast is familiar, even. Codex Practitioners demonstrate methods in World's Fair halls. The Enrollment Aces crew the roots in the airline motif. The Great Enroll Pression shows public forces as national parks that ask for stewardship. The Eternal Stack runs like a network of rail lines. The Finish Line Fog stages the last mile as cinema. The implements of perpetual flux pose hazards on a shop floor so you know what to avoid. How to read a spread. First, pause with the poster. Trace the lines of travel. Notice the scale. Find the prop that carries meaning, the lantern, the compass, the dice under glass. Then shift to the right page. The scene setter places you inside the picture. The single lesson states the core idea in one sentence. The field notes tell you exactly where to begin. Close your reading with the souvenir, a small takeaway to implement the idea and lessons in question for you. How to use this book with a team. Pick one spread each week. Monday, show the poster at the start of your stand-up. Ask one question. What would this look like here? Tuesday and Wednesday, run the 3 field notes as actions. Thursday, collect one example or metric that proves the move changed something real. Friday, share a short story. Tape the poster to a wall or a notebook. At the end of a month, go back and circle the spreads that made a difference. Those become your house patterns. Leaders can use the posters to set direction without long memos. Choose a chapter that matches your season. In fall, read the routes. In winter, read aid. In spring, read last mile work. Analysts can map signals and joins against the practical lessons. Counselors can borrow the language of the artifacts, the dice, the lantern, the quill, and turn it into friendly steps for students and families. Designers and builders can match the motifs to flow in Slate or your chosen stack. Then name patterns in human terms so others can read them. A note on tone. The art sometimes smiles, sometimes warns. The Aces posters feel like flight. The park posters ask for care. The rail posters bend perspective and whisper about machines that think. The cinema pages go quiet when the last few steps feel heavy. The shop posters raise a hand before something slips. This range is on purpose. Enrollment work is human and technical, steady and surprising. Let the art carry the feeling so the text can stay plain. A note on length. Every right page keeps to about 200 words. That choice is not a constraint, it's a promise. You can finish a spread in 5 minutes, then get to work. If you want less, put the posters up. If you want more, join me on the Innovation Forge podcast and enjoy other written explainers, like the Forge Bellows and the Fieldsmith's Register on these topics. The Bellows are my article aggregators and recap, where I curate articles on topics through the lens of the Forge. The Register also explores these topics with a flair and theatricality, but offer more depth, explanation, and actual guidance. Finally, a small ritual. Each time you finish a spread, write one sentence in the margin. What changed for a student this week because of this idea? Collect those lines. They become your local edition of the field guide. The versions that belongs to your team and your campus. Chapter 1. The Grand Pavilions of the Codex. The fairgrounds open to a grand entryway, and beyond the gates rise the Codex Practitioners. Each pavilion carries its own geometry, its own symbol, its own lesson. Towers of data blocks, domes of prisms, halls of light and time. These all stand as monuments to the disciplines that shape the Innovation Forge. The Codex Practitioners are not abstract roles, but living crafts. The Slatewright builds and leads, the Mentallurgist refines thought into clarity, the Threadweaver draws threads of journey into sturdy fabric. And others follow their own gifts. Each hall demonstrates not only what its practitioner does, but also why their work matters for the whole. This chapter invites you to wander the pavilions, step across query grids, beneath balance scales, into studios of letters and laboratories of light. Each stop is a chance to understand the craft behind enrollment work, the hidden disciplines that sustain the larger structure. Together, these halls form the Codex, a collection of practices and craft that stand firm even as the world outside shifts. Slatewright Hall. Slatewright Hall soars with cranes lifting clean blocks into a gleaming facade. A gantry arch frames the entrance, while the floor itself is patterned like a quarry grid. Visitors stand in awe as a demo rig operates, reminding them that construction here is never static, but always underway. The Practitioner. The Slatewright is both builder and dramaturge, shaping the stage upon which enrollment narratives unfold. Every beam is a configuration, every joint a rule that allows the structure to flex without breaking. The cranes and grids in the poster symbolize the precision and patience required to build environments where data can live, breathe, and connect. The lesson. This pavilion, it reminds us that systems are not accidents, but architectures. Each join, each mapped field, each scaffold is the result of intention. To walk into Slatewright Hall is to learn that the beauty of a structure lies not only in what it shows, but in the unseen logic holding it together. How can you be more intentional in shaping your system? Mentallurgist Shop. The Pavilion. The Mentallurgist Shop glows with a blend of alchemical apparatus and artisanal workshop. Oversized alembics rise beside tiled counters, while a crucible of light transforms raw material into something unexpected. Visitors wander between benches stacked with symbols of experimentation and reflection. The Practitioner. The Mentallurgist is part philosopher, part experimenter, taking on the hidden alloys of thought. Like the distillers in the artwork, they separate the useful from the noise, refining complexity into clarity. Their shop is not cluttered, but curated, each instrument a tool for coaxing meaning from the unseen. The lesson. The shop teaches the mental craft itself is a form of metallurgy. Ideas must be melted down, reshaped, and cooled into usable form. The Mentallurgist reminds us that behind every conclusion is the patient labor of refinement, and that insight is never stumbled upon but forged in quiet discipline. What elements of your process are you doing because it's always just been done that way? Threadweaver Arcade. The Pavilion. The Threadweaver Arcade arcs upwards in stitched spans of cable, translucent arches, catching the light like woven fabric. A kinetic display flips 3 panels in measured rhythm while visitors trace the patterns overhead. Flags and beams flutter in harmony, signaling that this is a place of connection. The Practitioner. The Threadweaver brings strands together, not through force, but alignment. Like the cables in the poster, they tension threads of observation, communication, and intervention until they hold weight. Each rhythm of the kinetic panels echoes the skill and timing nudges, weaving patterns that guide students with subtle strength. The lesson. This arcade teaches that success rarely rests on a single thread. It is the weave that gives strength. The Threadweaver shows that interventions are strongest when stitched together, forming patterns that endure and reverberate from a student's behaviors. Visitors leave reminded that care is a fabric made of many interlinked strands. How can you connect 2 data points, strategies, or touch points to improve the student journey? Ledger-born Treasury, the Pavilion. The ledger-born treasury rises as a vaulted hall, with a central balanced sculpture gleaming under high arches. Ledgers glow softly behind glass, while a timeline clock circles the balcony above. Small visitors consult guides as they stand before instruments of measure and distribution. The Practitioner. The ledger-born is guardian of resources, weighing equity with precision. Just as the balance in the artwork anchors the room, the ledger-born holds steady the competing demands of access, sustainability, and fairness. Their ledgers do not simply record, they illuminate the story of choice made and futures shaped. The lesson. The Treasury reminds us that financial aid and resources are more than transactions. They are instruments of alignment, ensuring that opportunity is both offered and sustained. To stand within Ledgerborn's hall is to see the stewardship is an act of trust, requiring both balance and vision. How can you better balance access to your institution while still being financially sustainable? Gatherquill Forum, the Pavilion. The Gatherquill Forum spreads under a pennant canopy. Kiosk stalls aligned for RSVP, check-in, and feedback. A central dais draws visitors forward, while a marked route guides their steps. Flags ripple above, fostering a lively exchange of ideas. The Practitioner. The Gatherquill is both host and recorder. Like the kiosks in the poster, they structure the flow of gatherings so that each voice finds a place. Their pen does not merely write, but invites participation, ensuring that moments are captured and shared for the good of the whole. The lesson. The forum teaches that gathering is an act of design. Engagement does not happen by accident, but by creating spaces where people can be heard. Gatherquill shows that every check-in, every feedback note, every RSVP is part of the collective rhythm of community. How can you curate your events to make them more than just an event? Holograph Studio, the Pavilion. The Holograph Studio shines with oversized letterforms on easels and sculptural pins rising as columns. Inkwells dot the plaza, while a path sign and pictograms whisper, "Keep copy clear." Visitors pause at boards, tracing shapes and symbols. The Practitioner. The Holograph is a steward of message and clarity. Their studio is both workshop and gallery, where every stroke matters. The giant letterforms in the posters symbolize their craft. Simple, legible, intentional. They remind us that words are not filler, but structure, holding meaning in place. The lesson. The studio teaches that clarity is kindness. Communication, like ink, can smudge or illuminate. The holograph shows that messages gain power when honed with care. Each poster, each portal, each note to a student carries weight, and the discipline lies in making them readable and true. What communication do you have now that can be redone to improve a student's experience? Etherbound Pavilion. The Pavilion. The etherbound pavilion rises in translucent arches. Light trails coursing through its frame like a living constellation. Floating nodes arc overhead, while the walkway glows a step ahead of each visitor. Fine masts catch unseen currents, and a faint aurora gathers above the central plinth. The Practitioner. The etherbound listens for signals others might miss. Like the pavilion's light paths, their work maps connections across invisible channels. They sense trends and shifts before they fully arrive, catching whispers in the air and translating them into guidance. The lesson. This all teaches that data is not just what is recorded, but also what flows. The etherbound reminds us that the unseen patterns still shape decisions. By learning to track faint signals, leaders can anticipate change rather than be surprised by it. What signals can you be more attuned to, and what action can you take from those signals? The Attritiononomist Observatory, the Pavilion. The Attritiononomist Observatory stands watch on a cliffside, its beacon tower casting radiant light across the dark bay. Tide markers descend the terrace towards the water, while rescue buoys hang along the rails. A lantern path winds back to the plaza, where a glass wall marks a line that bends upward in promise. The Practitioner. The Attritiononomist charts loss and departure. Like the beacon in the artwork, They scan horizons for signs of students slipping away. Their tools are markers. Buoys and timelines are not warnings alone, but interventions, designed to catch what might otherwise be lost. The lesson. This observatory teaches that attrition is not a mystery, but it's a pattern. With vigilance and care, decline can be slowed, and students can be guided back to the shore. The Attrition Anonymous reminds us that every tide has a rhythm, and that seeing it early makes response possible. The Datamancer Conservatory, the Pavilion. The Datamancer Conservatory gleams with a prism tower that splits light into ordered bands, washing a mosaic wall with color. Raw stone enters through a chute and emerges as tessellated tiles laid neatly along a garden path. Visitors gather at a table, arranging tiles into patterns beneath the bright beam. The Practitioner. The Datamancer transform raw fragments into usable forms. Like the tower refracting light, they sort chaos into clarity, revealing design where only scatter once stood. Their conservatory is both laboratory and garden, where data becomes arrangement and arrangement becomes meaning. The lesson. This pavilion teaches that data is more than numbers. It is raw material that requires structure to not only be understood, but to have meaning. The Datamancer reminds us that transformation is not decoration, but discipline, and that meaning is built from ordering the parts. The Chronologian Rotunda. The Pavilion. The Chronologian Rotunda is crowned by an armillary sphere, its floor engraved with concentric calendar rings. Four-season pylons glow at the compass point, while a split flapboard flips time above the entry. A sundial stair stretches outward, marked by a long shadow. Visitors trace the engraved rings with their hands. The Practitioner. The Chronologian orders time itself. Like the rotating rings in the artwork, they bring rhythm to the cycles of enrollment and student life. Their tools are spheres, boards, and sundials, remind us that time is both measurement and meaning, a constant companion in planning and response. The lesson. The Rotunda teaches us that timing is as important as action. The Chronologian shows that launches, deadlines, and cycles are not obstacles, but guides. To see time clearly is to act with confidence rather than haste. What is your institution doing that could be improved with the structure of improved timing? The Mentallurgist Works. The Pavilion. The Mentallurgist Works glows like a deco distillery. Its tall columns and glass coils refining streams of data cubes into solid bars of insight. Gauges and flasks line the walls, while a tasting bench invites side-by-side comparisons. Visitors lean over dials, watching the process unfold. The Practitioner. The Mentallurgist is an artisan of measurement. Like the distillers in the poster, they refine raw flows into signals that can be tasted, tested, and trusted. Their craft is not in volume, but in quality, ensuring that what is measured speaks truth. The lesson. The works teaches that numbers alone are not meaning. The Mentallurgist reminds us that metrics must be distilled, tested, and compared before they can guide decisions. Precision is a practice, not a shortcut. What data are you collecting that could be telling you something important? The Quarry-Smith Foundry, the Pavilion. The Quarry-Smith Foundry towers in glowing geometry. Molten streams poured into circuit molds atop an anvil plinth. Tool racks shaped like logic operators line the wall, and a stamping press forges clean quarry plates. Visitors pause at an inspection table where 3 rows of tiles gleam. The Practitioner. The Quarry-Smith is a forger of questions. Like the sparks in the poster, their work transforms scattered data into clear structures that can withstand scrutiny. Each plate, each mold, each tool is a reminder that asking well is a form of building. The lesson. The Foundry teaches that queries are more than commands. They are designed artifacts, each shaped with intent. The Quarry-Smith reminds us that the first step towards understanding is asking, and that forging the right question is itself an act of creation. What questions do you need to ask to get the answers for something you didn't even know you needed? At the close of the promenade, the pavilions fade into the distance. Their spires remain steady, cranes still lift blocks, and the sundial's shadow continues its march. Though the fairgrounds stay behind, their lessons travel onward with each visitor who passes. the Codex Practitioners endure as reminders. The work of building, refining, balancing, and guiding is never finished. These halls are not static monuments, but living workshops, always in motion, always shaping the next form. As the gates open to the wider fair, the sound of other exhibits begin to carry. It's the hum of engines, the call of rangers, the clang of workshops, the murmur of fog-shrouded theaters. Leaving the Codex does not mean leaving its wisdom. It means carrying its foundations into every chapter that follows. If you enjoyed today's episode, please grow the guild by rating and reviewing the Innovation Forge podcast, or sharing it with a colleague who needs to hear about these creative crossovers in education. The best review or comment every month will get an ebook of my book, of course. Particularly great ones will also be featured on future episodes. Thank you so much for joining me in the workshop today. Remember to strike true, and let's forge something extraordinary together.